Okay, welcome to my final project for Developing World, our discussion. With me I have my sister Sarah, my friend Trevor, and my roommate Cassidy. And first off, I want to ask you guys what your favorite part of the website was. Oh, go on.
Okay. Probably my favorite part of the website was all the pictures, because it really helped me feel like I could connect more with the people and see what it was like there.
My favorite part was probably just like all the developmental goals, just because, I don't know, it kind of showed the challenges that the Democratic Republic of Congo has issues with and has struggled with, and I've never even thought about those issues. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Okay.
My favorite part was the top 10 because you were able to see what's going on right now or in the past recent history of the Democratic of the Congo. Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Okay, so you can just call it the Congo.
All right,
sure.
Congo.
Okay, you know
the Congo. The Congo.
The Congo.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Is that all? Okay. Okay, so you guys also had a couple questions that I wanted to answer. So I'll start with a couple of Cassidy's. So you asked more about the president of the Congo. And his name is Joseph, I think it's Kabila, I don't really know. But he's 42 and he's been the president for 11 years. And so it's his second term in office, and he took the presidency from his dad when his dad was assassinated. So it's a great place to be living.
Wow.
So yeah, but he was like the youngest president. They just barely changed the age of how old a president could be, like 31 or 35 or something, right when he was getting put in. So he was a really, really young president. Thank you. And so you want to know a little bit more about him and what he does. Mostly he's been doing, the Congo's in the middle of a civil war they've been in since like 1994. And so he's been trying to work out all the peace treaties with the rebels and different kind of things. So basically he's been negotiating with them, and he negotiates something and then it doesn't work out. So he negotiates something else and it doesn't work out, and that's basically what's been going on. And then also one more thing about him is during the last election, there's a big debate about whether the election was rigged or not, that they don't think that he's being very honest about it and that he's rigging the system. Not like ours. He's rigging the system to just get himself back in. Your other question was about middle class people, because my website talks a lot about the lower class, the extremes of both sides. And I don't have anything about middle class because I can't find anything about it. They say that because of the war and everything, that's all that there is. There's the rich and there's the poor. There's nobody in the middle, because that's all they have is extremes. So there is no middle class. Well, yeah. Okay, and then also you talked about the relation with the United States. And most of the relations that we have with the Congo are through the United Nations. And so everything that we want to do to help them has to go through them. And one kind of issue that they've been having with that is that the UN is really, they're not consistent about when they give help and when they don't. So I think that's one of the things that makes the Congo struggle so much, is that they don't know when they're getting help and when they're not. So they're getting all this help and they're getting used to it, and then all of a sudden the US is like, whoa, you have too many rebels, you have too many problems, we're pulling out, and then they don't know how to handle it because they've been used to
What do you mean rebel?
one way or the other. So with the war that's going on,
so it's like people who engage the civil war.
It's people who are fighting against the government or are fighting against the war that's happening, which is, we'll get to that in a little bit. So Trevor, some of yours, this actually goes with that question. Some of your questions were about the child soldiers and about the effects that that's having on the children that are there. And so there are not just soldiers in the child soldiers in the Congo. There's other places like Chad and Sudan, just other places in Africa. Africa is the place that has the most child soldiers in the world. A couple of things about the child soldiers that I found was 40% of all child soldiers are girls, and they're often used as sex slaves, and the boys are given more of the in the field combat type of stuff. And they use child soldiers because they're easier to brainwash. They're easier to convince that it's a good idea. They're easier to manipulate and to get control of them. You don't have to pay them. They don't understand that. They don't understand that you need that. You don't have to feed them as much. They just don't have the expectations that adults do with that kind of stuff. They haven't learned it. And then there's a constant supply of troops, because there's kids everywhere. You can just go and kidnap them, which is another thing. The way that they do get child soldiers is often they're abducted from their country, their village or whatever. There's this thing called the Lord's Resistance Army that goes into the villages and just kidnaps kids and then trains them in the soldier to be in the Lord's Resistance Army. And so they can also they'll go into a village and say like, if you don't give us 10 kids, we're going to attack your village and we're going to kill the village. So they have to, like, people are forced to give up their kids, and also parents. It's not like what?
I don't know. It's just it's not really a choice.
It's like it's forced.
Well, like, does the government know about those people, or?
That's what all the treaties and the peace treaties are supposed to be, and what the UN is trying to get in there and help with, but it's like.
That's what Cabri or Cabby, the president, is trying to do.
Yeah, whatever. Joseph, whatever. Yeah. Yep. Okay, and then, so another thing, I don't know that specifically that the president is working on, but there's a cool website that I found called War Child, and they work a lot with this issue that they're trying to figure out, and they are trying to send in help to get schools put in to areas like that where they can, and they have like counselors and therapists that are going in to try to get kids away from the resistance army and get them back into society, but it's hard because a lot of times the way that they'll get kids to come into the army is they'll make them kill or hurt some of their family members so that their family members won't accept them back, and so they're forced to be gone. So if they want them in the army, they'll make them do something horrible so they're not accepted in their society any longer. And so kids don't know how to cope with that, obviously. So they...
It's going to make them outcast themselves.
And so to get them put back in, that's one thing that War Child has been doing, is trying to give them a place where they can not only like learn to get back into society. So it's not just education like reading, writing, like that type of thing. It's just to get them back into society. They'll give them counseling and health services. And they especially focus on the needs of the girls, because normally on these other organizations that people are trying to help with, they focus on the needs of the boys, and they don't understand that the girls have had different situations than the boys. And so that's one thing that War Child tries to do, is help the girls specifically. There. Yeah. Are there other questions on this?
That's just crazy. Like,
that it's actually real and that's happening.
It just seems so fake. Like,
I always thought it was just boys, and I never even. Because when you see pictures online,
it's always with boys. Well, I think online also it mostly depicts this like actual war, like with the violence and stuff. But like
the behind the scenes.
But the sex slaves, like you'll never see that. Like that's the girls.
That's just, I can't believe they make them hurt their families. Like, that's just so sad. Like, I can't imagine
having to do that.
Yeah.
It's a good question, Trev. Yeah.
Great job, Trev.
Okay, so you guys read the Millennium Development Goals, right? Did you understand what those were, or are they kind of confusing, or?
I felt like I did. I mean, like with. They're like, one of them was about water and how they're actually getting up good wells or improved water systems. And what was the other one? Education was one. They want kids to be, and I thought it was cool how they had stats for like primary education, secondary ed, and like middle school too.
Yeah.
And they all wanted to like consistently to improve, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of them. I mean,
there was lots of different goals. Yeah.
Stood out to me, but.
Okay, so that was one question I had. Is, do you feel like, because with these development goals, they have these 8 goals that we're trying to be met by 2015 for every developing country, and with the Congo, like, none of them have been met. Like, I don't know if you saw on my site, there was graphs of what they were like hoping the way that it would go, and it showed the actual projected, like, what actually happened. And we've had we didn't meet any of the goals. We didn't make any of it. It's not 2015 yet, but we're not, like, as of 2012, they're not doing well at all. And so I'm wondering your opinions on these goals. Like, should there be more? Should there be less? Should they be combining some and only focusing on a few? Like, what are your opinions on? I know we heard, Trevor, you liked that you had the educational ones and stuff, but how do you feel like the goals could be more productive? I guess more.
I think. Well, I guess I would like to know more about like how they set the goals, because it sounds like it's just like an outside organization that sets the goals. Yep. I think a big thing with goal setting in general, like whether it's like in setting any goals, is that the people who are going to be accomplishing the goals are involved in setting the goals, because the country probably doesn't. I mean, they want these things to happen, but they probably don't feel as like involved or committed to it because it's like a goal that somebody else set for them. And maybe if they were to make their own goals, they could kind of revise them and make something that actually would be achievable for their country. Where like right now, there's just so many things that are going wrong that yeah, it's just overwhelming. How could you possibly take care of that many things? Like, and it's a lot to focus on. Where if they were able to narrow it down a little bit and set some goals for themselves, maybe taking the Millennium Goals and, like you said, picking a couple of them to focus on or a couple of different areas and set their own goals from there, then I think that would probably be really helpful.
And I think like people from like who have been educated and who grew up there and who understand what's going on there should definitely be involved like with the goal setting process. But I mean, and obviously the goal should be stretching them. I mean, but I have no idea what that goal should be. I mean, but people within or someone who's grown up there and has been involved in maybe, I don't know, the education or political process or whatever it is, would have more of an idea of what would stretch. Because it's dumb to set a goal that's too easy, but you have to have a goal that's going to stretch you. But if you have one that's too far, which obviously these ones have been, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to give up hope and fill it out, I guess. I don't know.
Right. I completely agree with what's been said. Is it the UN that has set these goals for all countries?
Yeah, there's a committee that goes through. So there are a couple people from the country that get to be involved, but it's because it's the UN. But it's not like specifically in the Congo, someone that's been in, you know what I mean? Like,
so basically they're grouping all of the countries and setting this standard goal, and they want everyone to reach it.
But everyone has different needs.
Everyone has different needs, everyone has different resources, and everyone's in a different time and state of being with their country. And so exactly what they have said already is that the goals need to be more specific for the Congo, because these general standard goals are too general. They're too general. They're not even helpful for the country because it's too high of an expectation. So they know they're not going to reach it. So they're just going to try it.
To me, it sounds like they wouldn't reach it simply because it sounds just like a confusing Civil War place. I mean, there's no unity.
They don't really have the resources to do it.
I mean, it's hard enough to get a country that isn't in Civil War to follow through on a complete goal, let alone one in Civil War with rebel groups and all this. I don't know, so it sounds like a big struggle.
Their time is being placed elsewhere, and that's focusing on getting their country together.
It's in Civil War issue. I don't know.
Which is why I think it was, with these goals, I thought it would be smart if they had, like, I do think that countries need a basis of what, like, they don't even know what they need. So I like that they have, like, each of these individual goals. But I would say, like, they could say for every country you need to pick 3 of the 8 goals to meet by this time, and you pick what's most important for your country and figure that out first. And also with things, a couple of the goals are like poverty and like health and that kind of thing, and education, but it's like you can't focus on educating people until they're healthy. Like you can't put one goal above the other, so they really need to prioritize which goal needs to come where. And so just to give you guys a little bit of background on where they are with each of the goals, with education, so they've been working on trying to make sure that kids get in school and stay in school, but right now only 75% of all the students that start in grade 1 can make it through, and then usually do about 8 or 9 years of schooling, and then that's it. So it's like they don't even get past like secondary, so they don't go very far in it. And this is mostly because of the Civil War, that the schools are damaged, or the teachers are forced to leave and be part of the war, or they're not there, or a lot of the times the kids are having to work instead of go to school. Because not every kid is, I kind of pictured it in my mind, like families are completely like dispersed, like kids are always in the army, like all these things. There still are like family groups and like villages and places where people are like doing okay, but where the war is happening, they don't have jobs. They don't have a way to make money. And so if their parents are gone, or if their parents got killed in the war, or whatever the circumstances, kids are spending more time working than they are and on time to go to school. So if they did have a school, they wouldn't even have time to go to it.